Hello, and welcome to the second interview in the Resilience Initiative. Today we're joined by Scott Bunny, who's in the financial services sector, currently in Singapore. He's a native Australian. I really think you'll like his take on resilience, specifically how it's part of a life of action. It's part of looking forward. It's part of growing. It comes with initiative. And I love his comment about how the universe conspires. Make sure to listen for that. Enjoy it. Bye bye.
Well, thank you for having me in the as part of the resilience initiative, Watson. I think resilience to me, and I when I thought about this question, I thought, okay, well, that resilience, I think at a dictionary definition level, is recovering quickly from a difficult situation. Um, that's pretty cut and dry. My version of that is recovering quickly better than you were before from a difficult situation or a situation with limited resources. And if I sort of play that out with a few more scenarios, it's perseverance. It is continuing to um, pick yourself up regardless of the scenario, but not doing the same thing over and over again. Um, I many years ago at a big conference with one of the most energetic guys I ever watched, I got onto a phrase he used called aim, fire, adjust. And this was to hundreds of financial services executives. I think in the life insurance sector in Australia at the time, and that sector was plagued by what were they going to do in this perfect storm of claims. And this guy's point was, if you're just sitting on an idea and never pulling the trigger, you are not going to get anywhere. You're not going to make a difference. You're not going to change anything. So you've got teams of people, you're all getting paid well, you've taken aim, pull the trigger. Yes, you have to do some risk management and some balancing and some thought there, but pull the trigger and adjust and repeat that process. And I think resilience in its truest form comes from doing that repeatedly. And I think it's from effective resilience you get a certain strength of character. I think effective resilience is linked to planning and preparation and anticipation and self-awareness. And it's really about how to make the most of any situation. So that is what I think of when I hear the word resilience. I think just dealing with the rewarding of action situation, or concept or theory, if we can call it that. We, at global societal level, have never had more um, awareness around issues than ever before. Right? We are surrounded with more. This is an issue. This is what it's about. And to give some examples, mental health. We already touched on suicide. Um, a lot of people with great ideas that never get it off the ground. And I'm a little bit, and it applies to myself. So I'm a little bit sick of myself when this happens, of all of the awareness and all of the good intentions amount to naught without action.
Yep.
Right. So when resilience is present, um, you probably have some evidence of good planning. Because you are resilient, you know you can cope if a bomb does go off. But because you know you can cope, they are far less likely to come. And that's negatively connotated language. The positive connotated language there is the universe will transpire to help you when you are well prepared, and when you are resilient. And you can create that positive anticipation, and growth opportunities and what some might call luck is fostered. So you're giving yourself the right environment if resilience is present, and truly every cloud will have a silver lining. That is what happens when resilience is present. When it's absent, I mean, we just do the inverse of all the things I mentioned there. But I think you know, what happens at a practical level is it becomes easy to bury your head in the sand, and so the self-awareness drops, the accountability reduces probably to zero, and you become susceptible to poor outcomes on repeat. Self-sabotage is an issue, and you know, spiraling, and if that and that you know, it's a virus. It can spread, and it can hinder any chance of positive thinking, and it can take over in a bad way, and it can stunt that action that we've talked about. Sometimes by design, or you know, by intent, and sometimes just by the hands that you are dealt. You are in uncomfortable situations, and the reality is, it's those uncomfortable scenarios that help you acquire resilience. And I'll give you two examples of other people who say it way better than me. I listened to, again, another financial services scenario here. 800 people in a room. This really amazing speaker, a woman, was talking about the comfort zone and getting out of the comfort zone. And to be able to do that effectively, we have to get uncomfortable for a while. And this is leveling up every time. If you're here but you want to go there, you can only do it by spending time in that uncomfortable zone. Right?
Yep.
And I think that is really neatly linked to your responsibility scenario a minute ago. Something big, something new comes, you haven't really done it before, it's a lot to take on. Yeah, you might be sweating it for a while, but through that time, you will level up if you're committed to it, and if you plan, and if you're resilient, and you will hit a new level. Just last week, at a Rotary Club meeting here in Manila, I listened to this fascinating talk by a lady. I'm usually very good with names, and it escapes me right now, but she has a title. She's Miss Wheelchair USA 2019 or 2018 or something. She had a terrible car crash when she was 10 or 11, was in a coma for several weeks. I remember all these details. She was lucky to live, and she is now she's an absolute dynamo. And she talked about going out of her way as often as possible to get into uncomfortable situations, the stuff that freaks her out the most. And she went diving with sharks, was the scenario that she talked about. And she thought, you know, it was one of her big fears, and she went diving. She thought she was going to be in a cage. She got into the ocean. There was no cage, and she was, you know, this far from big sharks. And she, you know, to her credit, she made a joke about how she just thought if the sharks go for her, she hopes they go for her legs. And it was, yeah, it's. Well, but this is one of those issues that we as a society all need to deal with, is that it doesn't matter what shape or size you come in, or what. Yeah, I mean, there are people like her. She's faced more adversity than most people ever will, and is absolutely crushing it. And you know, does more, is more active, is more accomplished than most people with full limb control. So you know, it's very motivating to hear people talk about that. So yeah, I think you get uncomfortable, you don't rest on your laurels, you set your stretch goals, you write those down, you over communicate those, you share those with the people around you, and you put yourself out there. And you don't give up. So that's how you acquire resilience. You need these scenarios, because if everything happened first time every time, you're probably setting yourself up for a bit of a fall. So if there's some passion involved with what you're doing, then you'll get a few knockbacks along the way, but you'll get up and you'll keep chasing it. So that's how you acquire resilience. That's a long answer. I think everyone will have a time where they procrastinate on something, where it is one of those responsibility challenges or those comfort zone challenges, and the analysis goes on for so long. It's one of those awareness and intention issues without action.
Right.
And perhaps I've crudely stumbled upon my answer here. I think one loses resilience if action is not taken. If you can sit there and say, you know what, I know I'll feel better if I go to the gym tomorrow, but there's something on tomorrow, then I probably should do that and not go to the gym, so I'll do that another day. If that thought pattern repeated is a bad habit, and that will lead to inaction, and that will lead to fear, which we've already talked about, and that will mean there will be no planning for the best. There'll be no dreaming. You'll expect negative outcomes, and the second you expect negative outcomes, the negative outcomes will flow, and you will turn your back on the responsibilities. And I think that cycle repeated is how resilience is eroded. We're creatures of habit, and we can be ruled by bad or good ones. And sometimes and probably everyone has, if they have predominantly good habits, there'll be a sprinkling of bad ones, because I believe perfection is something to strive for but never attained. And conversely, the bad habits are very easy to slip into to acquire as well. What, this is probably the hardest question in this, is to name someone specifically who has resilience. A lot of the people I count as clients and friends who have successfully navigated Australia's superannuation sector and financial services sector through a really, really difficult time. We've had a Royal Commission, a government-led Royal Inquiry, and there's a lot of worn out people, worn out expressions on faces of people that I thought were eternally unflappable. And these things take their toll, but they the sun still sets in the west and rises in the east, and they are still out there making the most of the opportunities. And I think these are the people that live and breathe resilience. There's and I said that my perfection piece before, you can't eliminate bad scenarios or negativity to zero. But what we can do, and this is one of the best habits, is by spending as little time as possible in those scenarios. So acknowledge it, take stock of it, and rebound with action super quickly. And I think if you can embrace that, if one can embrace that whilst thinking, okay, well, positive thinking, that's a habit that I would like to, hope that I have. There are many ways to go about getting that positive habit. I suspect that might be too long a bow to draw. But yeah, those are some people that show resilience to me, and I think there's some detail around that. As for one habit that builds resistance, Watson, that's really, really hard. And I think if I had to pick just one, if anyone could habitually be assessing what that next somewhat uncomfortable scenario is, and planning that and booking it in and putting it up on the notice board in your house and committing to it, that would absolutely build resistance. And the types of things could be speaking on stage, public speaking in some way, shape or form, training in the gym, sitting exams as a mature age or mid-career person, negotiating with someone, and anything like that, I think can make one uncomfortable, and in turn lead to resilience.
Wasn't that great? I love that line. And when you take action, the universe will conspire to help you. I just love that. And I loved his comment about aim, fire, and adjust. I find the adjustment is part of the art of life. When do we keep doing the same thing? And when do we refine what we're doing? Fantastic. Thank you, Scott. Make today a masterpiece. Bye-bye.